I'm Kevin Rinke, and I'd like to welcome you to Beyond the Echo. I ran for governor in Michigan. After losing that election, my desire to look at issues that are important to the state or the country grew. There is so much static. There are so many opinions. Our news stations have gotten to the point where we don't know what news is anymore. Where do you go to get real facts? This is about real perspective for you. Beyond the Echo will cut through all the smoke, all the opinions. It's not about Republicans. It's not about Democrats. It's about the issues and what are real. Welcome back to 2026 first, and who knows, maybe only episode of Beyond the Echo. So if I didn't talk to you before, ho, 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 Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Today, we're going to talk just about some current events. And I'm going to give you some thoughts on those items. So with that said, why don't, Tony, you fire away at the questions and
Happy to do it.
we'll go from there.
Okay. So obviously the big thing right now that a lot of people are talking about is the situation that happened in Minneapolis with ICE and a young lady being shot. And you made
ICE in Oregon, actually, because Border Patrol shot two people in Oregon, if I'm not mistaken, as well. Yeah.
Yep. So specifically related to that one in Minneapolis, you made a post about it that a lot of people are talking about. So I want to talk about that. But I guess before I get in, just give us your overall impression of that event and what your thoughts are on it.
Well, I think I summed it up pretty well in the post. Look, anytime somebody dies, I think that it needs to be evaluated. And when someone dies in a public setting, it needs to be thoughtfully evaluated. Today's protests, today's expression of people's opinions and what they think are rights or rules or laws are really cloudy. And it's based on partisan politics that are not reflective of how society's supposed to be. And I worry because we have really serious issues at hand, and we have some seriously stupid idiots deciding how those issues are going to be handled. And when it's politicians that are stupid idiots, it should concern all of us because, candidly, it doesn't represent the America that I want to live in. And I'm proud of America. I'm proud of the people that live in America. I don't care if you're a Jew. I don't care if you are a Mormon. I don't care if you believe in Islam or a Christian or a Protestant. What I care about is, do you respect our country? And do you respect the community that you live in? And we're a melding pot. I look at social media and politicians as the greatest threat in the 250-year history of our country. Much more dangerous than China, much more dangerous than Russia ever was, to the fabric of what communities believe in, what families stand for, what religion and the role it should be in our society. So Minnesota, I feel bad for the lady who was shot. Um, there's consequences to breaking the law. And for all the people on the other side of the issue, and in this case, I'm going to say the left, that say she shouldn't have been shot, you know what? I wish she wasn't. I might say that she shouldn't have been there. The fact that she's a mother doesn't make me feel bad that her kids have now lost their mother. What it makes me question is, what would a mother, a responsible mother of young children, be doing there? the fact that her um, partner, I don't know if the other woman is her husband or whatever, thinks in this smug ass fashion that filming it and mouthing off to federal authorities is okay. Well, I bet she doesn't think that it was okay now. I bet she never even considered the consequences now. Um, she might have a different opinion. She can be angry about it. She can be emotional about it. Um, I'm trying to balance it. I think it's wrong and it is factually inappropriate for the people in Minnesota, be it the governor or the mayor, to shoot their mouths off. It is a federal legal action. Federal law has precedent over the state on a federal legal action. I cannot believe the number of people that say, oh, we can't trust that there will be a fair investigation. I believe there will be, and I believe there should be. Um, I think that all the evidence needs to be considered, and this is about as extreme as it gets, but shit happens, and there's consequences, and that's really long-winded. I'm sorry. Um, I wish the police officer would not have discharged his weapon. I wish that. I wish that for him as much as I wish it for her. And his weapon was discharged. What led up to that is important for people to consider. Um, and the impact on that officer, his family, on the community at large, and the rights of people to protest, because I'm all for normal protests.
Peaceful.
Yeah, peaceful protests. But, I challenge anybody to put themselves in the place of police officers or these federal agents. They're doing their job. They were hired to do a job, they're doing it. And I don't know where in the employment manual it says it's okay to have people spit in your face, throw things at you,
Drive a car at you.
drive a car at you, um, you know, threaten your wife or your children. I know this. You spit in my face, and I'm probably going to knock your chiclets out. Well, yeah. And you can say, oh, is one, equal to the other? Have we digressed that far that that's the litmus test? I'm all for disagreeing. All right. And if you know me, or if you have known me over the years, I have been critical of Republicans and Democrats on our immigration laws and implementation because we are a country of immigrants. So I am pro immigration. There has to be a process that works for America, and it also works for the immigrant that wants to come to America. America should have the right to say, we want you or we don't want you. Every other country in the world does that. Why should that be so foreign to us? And what I mean by that is, okay, does America want drug dealers? I would hope not. Do they want murderers? I would hope not. Do they want wife beaters? I would hope not. Do they want pedophiles? I would hope not. Do they want a litany of other convicted felons or mentally ill or physically ill people as part of their immigration? And I would think not. And by the way,
You wouldn't think so.
the rest of the world doesn't want them either. So, are there going to be exceptions? Of course. Because always someone's going to go to the extreme and say, what about this? But anyway,
Well, since the, event happened, obviously we have a lot more information now.
Mhm.
Multiple video angles have come out and been available for public, viewing. There's been a lot of information. The lady traveled 5 hours to be there. That officer that discharged his firearm had just had been run over by a car the week before, so maybe a little PTSD. And so, there's been a lot more information to process, and I'm sure there'll be more as the investigation unfolds. But in your opinion, do you think the officer acted, from everything you've seen and had a chance to observe, do you think the officer acted in self-defense?
so that's a good question. I don't care about the fact that he was previously dragged. Okay. And you mentioned PTSD. That should not be a consideration for his actions, in my view. What is a consideration are the stops that morning in the interactions with not only that woman that was shot, but other people that were obstructing ICE agents. And folks, they're breaking the law. They can be cavalier. They can think they're funny. They can think they're cute. They can think whatever they want until there's a consequence. And here's my response. If you aren't willing to ultimately live up to the ultimate consequence, figure out a different way of dialogue. Figure out a different way to be engaged. You know, me personally, I'd love to see our federal government pull out water cannons and wash these idiots right down the drain. That's me personally with the water cannons like they used to do in Europe. I thought it was hilarious watching the body roll down the street, getting squirted. And I think those people are idiots. I'm going to tell you, I could not put up with people spitting in my face. I could not put up with people talking about my wife or my kids or my family in that fashion. And they can all say, well, then you don't believe in the First Amendment. You know what? I do believe in the First Amendment. I also believe that a pop in the chop sometimes is appropriate. And by the way, if you throw one, be ready to get one.
Like I said earlier, it's a human reaction.
Yeah,
And people will say the officers should be trained to handle those situations,
that's a
but
bunch of bunk.
it's a human reaction.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
so then I would ask, obviously it's not just an isolated incident. What is the bigger problem here?
Well, I think the bigger problem ultimately is that people believe the BS that these politicians are spewing. And I'm going to use Omar as an example. There's a television clip of her running around saying, oh, that ICE is taking US citizens and locking them away into darkness and they're disappearing. And if I'm the reporter, I'm going to say, well, can you give me a name, please? Can you give me an example? And the fact of the matter is, she can't. Are there instances where US citizens have been detained by ICE? Yes, and they are released. Are there instances where police officers stop and question the wrong person? Yes, those people are released. You know, when you look at the number of bad guys that ICE is collecting, when you look at the 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 quality of some of the people that have been allowed to enter the United States illegally because other countries around America said, what a great opportunity to flush the toilet. We can take people out of our prisons and send them to the United States. We can take people out of our mental institutions. We can take people that we don't want here and send them there. And you know what? I don't want them in my backyard. I don't want to pay for them. I want there to be more legal immigrants. Currently, I think we allow in about 1.5 million people a year, and that number has been consistent for 12 or 15 years, if I'm not mistaken. I actually think the number should go up to 2.5, maybe even 3 million people per year. I don't think that it should take 12 to 20 years to legally follow the process. And by the way, I don't think that if you've got some money, that because you're willing to throw whatever the number is that Donald Trump came up with, the gold card, that you should be able to run to the front of the line.
Yeah.
I disagree with that as well. Although I understand President Trump's intent, um, there's a process.
Yeah. Well, maybe we could ask Omar. Maybe the people that she believes are missing are in the Somali daycares.
Yeah.
That'd be a good place to look.
What, the Leering centers?
Yeah.
The
The
Somali
Leering centers.
daycare Leering centers?
Yeah.
Yeah, what a travesty that is.
Well, in your view, do you think this kind of event, of course, obviously the media is going to showcase these types of events all over the place. Do you think this is hurting or helping the immigration enforcement debate that's going on?
Oh, it hurts. Anytime emotions are overriding factual, objective evaluation, that hurts. That sets you back. And I can get emotional. I can shout and scream and push and punch and do everything that everybody that's being an idiot out there does. When I've done it in the past in my life, I felt stupid and bad about it. I like facts. And I think we need to have leadership. And I'm going to be critical of the Democrats for stirring it up. And I'm going to be critical because I'm disappointed in how Republicans in Washington have responded. I really like J.D. Vance. I didn't like J.D.'s response.
Yeah.
I support
Turned up the
President
heat.
Trump, and I don't like the way he's responded to it. I'm looking for leadership. I'm looking for cooler minds and calmer thoughts. And it goes away for the press if people don't respond. But when they can create conflict, when they can stir up the pot, they're loving it. And somehow that's not real to me. That's not objective. That's not news. That's that's manipulated editorial. And here's what I find so interesting about the comments. And I'll refer back to my post. I was actually trying to be neutral. I was actually objectively identifying facts and trying to let the process work out. And I read the responses. Sometimes I even respond to the responses. A lot of people were being very emotional. And, but that said, I don't even have to be a police officer to say, if someone is endangering my life, would I consider defending myself? And do I think that in that police officer's mind, he thought he was defending himself? My personal opinion is yes. Does that mean that it was legal? That's not for me to determine. I've observed it. I have an opinion. Do I think he murdered somebody? No. Do I think he killed somebody? Yes. And there's a difference. I don't think he got out of bed and said, I'm going to go shoot some woman who's being an idiot.
Right.
And I think she was being an idiot.
I think if you talk to any respectable law enforcement agent, they would all say the last thing they ever want to have to do is pull their firearm and shoot somebody. I don't think that's, if it's a good, I mean, they're bad cops, just like there's bad doctors and there's bad everything, right? But I think a good one would never hope to have to do that. But those environments that they're in, those are some high intensity and environments. And this is why, like you mentioned, the right and the left in their response, all they're doing is inflaming a situation that is already hot, and it's making it more dangerous for protesters and ICE agents, or law
It's
enforcement
a
agents.
lose-lose.
Yeah,
It's a lose for the protesters. It's a lose for the police officers. It's a lose for our country. And I'm going to digress for a sec because I have seen people get shot. Okay? It's not like Hollywood. It's ugly. And I have seen the response or the reactions of the shooter as well as people around the person who have been shot. And I hope you never see that. Um, it ain't funny. It's serious. And yeah, that ICE agent will think for the rest of his life. And the people that witness that will think for the rest of their life. And my hope is that we can somehow de-escalate to come to a better conclusion.
yeah. Well, there's always the knee-jerk reaction, right? People get on and they just immediately react.
Sure.
You would hope that we know the media is going to do that, right? They're going to find ways to get clicks and views. You would hope that our elected officials would, on both sides, would behave in a little more diplomatic way.
Yeah.
But it's not. But you had mentioned in your post that facts are more important than emotions. So what do you think are the facts that are still the most unclear about this whole thing?
Well, so I don't have all the facts.
Right.
You don't have all the facts. All the people that are commenting on this don't have all the facts. And it's my belief the federal government will do a investigation. I disagree with those people who say, oh, the Trump administration can't do a transparent investigation. Yes, they can. I think that they will determine whether or not it was justified or not. And it doesn't matter what my opinion is, they will determine whether it was justified or not. We have a legal system that if it is determined that it was not justified, that agent will be subjected to. And interestingly enough, the people who may be stirring up the pot or creating these situations, in my view, need to be subjected to that same legal system instead of getting a free pass. Because you look at all of the spitting, the throwing stuff, the impeding and blocking and harassing. 99.999% of the protesters get off. If you're an ICE agent, you don't get off. You are subjected to that and you have to suck it up and put up with it. If you're a police officer, you're expected to suck it up. And everyone acts with such outrage when they get a baton over their head. You know what? I'm not going to put myself in that type of situation. So I think if you're dumb enough to and you get hit over the head, too freaking bad.
Absolutely.
That's my view.
There's a way to voice your opinion,
Yeah.
and show up and support something you're passionate about without being disrespectful to law enforcement. And that's where the line gets drawn. It's when violence comes into place, or threatening someone or threatening someone's safety. That's where you kind of lose your First Amendment rights.
Well, you still have them, but that's where the consequences.
Better way of
And
saying
by
it.
the way, it's not when you disrespect a federal officer or you disrespect a police officer, a local police officer, a state police officer, or a sheriff, you're doing more than just disrespecting that entity. You are disrespecting our country, which is a country of law and order. You are disrespecting our state, which is supposed to be a state of law and order. You're disrespecting our communities. And you may even be disrespecting your neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
So it sucks. It's a bad deal.
Well, kind of end this part of, this discussion with you. You had mentioned that the administration's response to this has been highly politicized. What do you think are the ramifications of let's talk our president, the conservative side, the administration's response to this. What has been the ramifications, or what are the ramifications of this going to be?
Well, I want to focus on moving America forward. And this is a distraction, in my view. I happen to support ICE. I happen to have voted to have illegal immigrants removed from our country. I happen to believe that there should be a, a target and that there should be priorities, but every action isn't going to necessarily hit the top priority, and the bottom priority may be caught up in that. That's part of the deal. Um, so, what is the ramification? I think that potentially it may energize midterm voters, and with Trump not being on the ballot, it becomes all the more important for Republicans, conservatives, and independents who don't like where the left is going. You may not like where the right is, but who don't like where the left wants to take us, to still turn out and vote. Not just in the primary, but in the general. Not just in the general, but in the primary. So my concern is the impact on the political process in the 26 elections.
Next thing I want to talk about is this Maduro arrest that
Mhm.
just happened recently. Um, in your view, was the U.S. justified in arresting Maduro, or did they take it too far?
Yeah, 100% justified. Okay. And interestingly enough, a lot of people do not understand that leaders of countries traditionally have immunity, but you can void your immunity with certain actions. For instance, during World War II, there were several meetings that occurred between US delegations, British delegations, Russian delegations, and German delegations, as well as Japanese delegations. There was dialogue going on, and nobody was arresting their leaders. There was a dispute. Hitler would have been arrested for his actions as it related to concentration camps. He broke the law, both the international laws, and he voided potentially his immunity. Now, historically, there was a dispute as to when people became aware of the fact that these concentration camps were killing people. And folks, it was huge. 14 million people died in World War II. 14 million people died. And almost 50% of that were civilian casualties. And then the next largest percentage of that were Jews that were incinerated and worked to death in concentration camps. Terrible. So, sorry to give you the history lesson, but Maduro, when he was facilitating drug lords, when he was violating international treaties through disregarding sanctions and some of his actions, um, was right on the edge of giving up his immunity. And I believe that he crossed over when they tied him to the various gangs and drug lords. That's my belief. There appears to be an agreement that from a legal perspective, that's where Maduro stood, that he was in violation of his immunity. That's a different answer than should we have taken him out? And I find it really funny because you've got really high level Democrats who are on record of saying, oh, Maduro's got to go, Maduro's got to go, Maduro's got to go. And then when Maduro goes, they say, well, I don't like the way he had to go.
Because Trump did it.
Because Donald Trump did it, or because America did it. And I want to stop the focus on Donald Trump, because if Donald Trump wasn't there, my expectation would have been either another Republican or a Democratic president would have done the same darn thing.
You'd hope.
You know, when we went after the bad guys in the Middle East, Saddam Hussein, he violated his immunity. It was okay to do that. When we went after bin Laden, violated, any international, it's part of the deal. And you know what? Kudos to the Department of War. Kudos to those warriors that executed flawlessly that military operation. And the complexity of that is so far above the average citizen that they can't even begin to imagine. And I want an America that is lethal, deadly, precise, and that delivers consequences when you are acting at the expense of America. And let's not forget, 300,000 people per year die from illegal drugs. 300,000 Americans per year die from illegal drugs. That's 6 times the number of people killed in the Vietnam War. And people say, oh my God, what a travesty the Vietnam War was. We need
And that's every year.
That's every year. That's not the people that survive the illegal drugs that are on our healthcare costs because of their addictions, because of their treatments, because of whatever we have to do to save those people. You think of the billions of dollars we have to spend, and I'm saying we finally have a war on drugs. I remember when they announced a war on drugs and it was like a wet fart. There was no war. There was no war. It was just, oh, it sounded good. Let's go to war on drugs. I'm okay. You're a drug dealer.
Yeah.
I'm in charge. Guess what? You kill people, and I'm okay if we take you out. That's me. Now, America may not agree, but I'm entitled to my First Amendment right.
That's right. And you have a platform to share it. So
there you go.
So, in the case you mentioned bin Laden and Hussein, and in those cases, both had their lives taken. In this situation, it was a very precise military operation that was able to get him out with no casualty. And so what do you think, what kind of precedent does this set for dealing with future law-breaking leaders?
Well, I don't know if you've ever heard the saying, there's a thin line between Saturday night and Sunday morning. Okay. And I believe in the case of Maduro that it was unquestionably clear. I don't particularly care for certain high-ranking U.S. individuals making the innuendo that you better look over your shoulder because we're coming for you next.
No
Okay.
names mentioned.
You know what? When you're the most powerful guy in the world, shut up. Because your actions can speak louder than your words. And for all the Trumpsters out there that just think it's hilarious or gay, yeah, Donald, kick their ass. For me, I voted for Donald Trump. I support Donald Trump. I would like him to be quiet more often. Actions speak louder than words. Yeah. And I like leaders that provide results versus rhetoric. Bravado. There's a level of narcissism that, man, It's crazy. And a lot of people seem to like it. I just think it's unnecessary. I think it's divisive for America. And at the end of the day, I think that it can have long-term negative results, but I love the guy's backbone. I love the guy's actions. I just don't like all of the surrounding blah 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 that goes with
The
it a lot of
talk.
times. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. My basketball coach used to say, we'd have a big victory and we would over celebrate. And he'd say, act like you've done this before.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit to our president that would be like, hey, we're the US, we're the powerhouse. We did what we were supposed to do. Now let's act like we've done it before.
So one of my favorite songs was by Toby Keith. And in my lifetime, my 65 years, and I grew up watching John Wayne in cowboy movies and John Wayne in war movies for World War II and John Wayne in Vietnam movies and, different heroes. Toby Keith had a song, and there's a line: "We'll stick a boot up your ass. It's the American way." And I like that America when it's justified. We didn't stick a boot up anybody's ass in Vietnam. I don't want to fight if we're not willing to win.
Right.
But when we're willing to win, I want to stick a boot up your ass.
Yeah. So, I mean, you do love that part of Trump that's like, the
Absolutely.
whole FAFO. Have you seen that?
I have not.
F around and find out. That's
Yeah.
what the White House is. So, I mean, you kind of love that mentality as a guy, as a red-blooded American. You love that you have a president that's not afraid.
Yeah.
But then it's just the rhetoric. It's just,
Yeah.
it's too much, and it points
It's too much for me.
It points too much attention to himself and not to what we did as a country or why it benefited our country. And I think it just puts the emphasis on the wrong thing.
Yeah.
So, do you think, in your view, is this a role that the U.S. should play more globally, or should we pull back on these types of things?
Well, I'm not about the U.S. being a nation builder. Okay. In the Maduro action, it's my unequivocal belief that he was protecting the United States and its citizens. Unequivocal belief.
Mm-hmm.
In some country, thousands of miles away, should it be our business or should it be the neighbors of that country or the people within that country, their responsibility? I happen to believe that that should be handled by them versus us. We don't need to be the world's police officer, but we do need proudly to stick our shoulders back and say, we're America, and there's a minimal acceptable level. And if you go below that level, we will gladly help you be reacquainted to what that level is and expect you to adhere to it.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so let's move on real quick here to the Michigan Republican primary for governor. You have now had the chance, as of today, to pretty much interview all of the Republican candidates, with the exception of John James, who just won't respond to multiple invites,
Yeah.
personal invites, social media invites, letters, certified letters,
Yeah.
the whole thing, and just no response.
Right.
But pretty much everyone else has been on the show, or anyone that, is relatively taken seriously, I guess. So I'd like to get your feedback on, your thoughts of where you made the decision to not run.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I know you have some opinions, some strong ones. So first of all, what stands out to you most right now about the current GOP field that we got?
Well, to me, what we have is a bunch of political retreads that are running, be it from Lansing or be it from Washington. I don't know that that's great for Michigan. Um, I, I watch the perceived leader in his lack of willingness to sit on a stage and debate. And to me, that's a weakness. Okay. It can be civil debates. the people that we've had on the show are all good people, and I applaud them for being in it. I don't see how they're differentiating themselves from each other. And having been a candidate for governor, um, when I ran, I had specific issues that I ran on. And I thought those issues were the best for Michigan. Apparently, either the people of Michigan or my political opponents were able to minimize the impact of those issues because I lost. You know, maybe it was my policies, or maybe it was my gender at the time.
That played a factor for sure.
It did, but I don't know. I'm looking to vote for someone who gets me fired up. And right now, I'm still patiently waiting to be fired up.
Yeah. Well, so, we talked about this a little bit before, but I think currently there are what, 8 people, 7 people running?
John James, you've got Eric Nesbitt, you've got Tom Leonard, you've got Mike Cox, and then you've got,
Ask My Tax.
well,
What's
I
her?
don't even know if she's still running.
Oh,
I don't know if she's qualified to run. You've got Ralph. I don't know what the heck Ralph's doing.
Yeah.
He's a much better pastor than he is a politician. And Anthony Hudson, I think's out of his mind.
so 7 or 8.
Well, actually, I think that there's 4
Okay, that will actually make it on the.
that are bona fide. Um, and of
Well,
those
my question.
4,
Well, my question though is, I'm going to ask you who you think has the best chance, but
Sure.
with that many people with their hat in the ring, they all going to get a certain amount of the vote. How does having that many people actually negatively impact?
what's part of the reason I didn't run.
Yeah,
You know what? Because then it breaks down to I'm going to vote for my guy on a single issue versus a platform of issues.
right,
And it's my belief, and politicians don't like a businessman's approach. You need a platform of issues to run on that people can say, I want this implemented, and expect that it be implemented. When you have so many people in the primary that it breaks down to single issue items,
right,
you're letting the politician off. You're not holding them accountable. And correspondingly, because all your eggs are in one issue, if you lose, you're not inclined to support the guy who wins. And we see that on the Republican side often. What people got to realize is this is the first time in my life that we're going to have 3 potential candidates for governor, that we're going to elect somebody, I bet, as the next governor of Michigan with under 35%
right.
of the popular vote. And that, to me, for a state that has as many problems as Michigan has, and I love Michigan, we've got people who aren't putting forth strong solutions for the issues that affect us all. So I'm really worried about it.
Well, and you hear a lot of these guys say, because there's so many, I could win with 25% of the vote, as though that's a good thing. Then to go into a general election with only 25% of the hardcore Republicans who came out in the primary supporting you, to get the amount of support that it takes to win a general is nearly impossible.
Yeah. I don't know how the Democrats did it, but Garland Gilchrist just dropped out of the gubernatorial race. Dana Nessel is, uh, you know, running. I'm sorry, Jocelyn Benson.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Dana. I don't like either one of them, but Jocelyn Benson is the Democratic
Right.
candidate
What
for
about
governor.
Swanson? Is he's still in it, right?
Who?
Okay, but he's in there.
Who?
Chris Swanson.
What?
Yeah.
You know, he's right up there with the 3 people on the Republican ticket who aren't going to win.
Sure.
So Jocelyn Benson is the candidate for governor for the Democrats. And Mike Duggan's going to be on the ballot. And there's going to be a Republican. You know, if I'm guessing, just because of the amount of money it will be John James. And John has the highest name recognition. I happen to think it's about an inch deep. And they don't ask if you like the guy, but John's going to be relatively strong in the tri-counties on the east side. And, really 4 counties elect
Determined, yeah.
The candidate for governor at Michigan. Kent County from the west side
Yeah,
predominantly.
what is it, like Southeast Michigan is like 65% of the electorate or something
It,
like
it
that?
could be. I don't
Yeah.
know what the number is.
So you got John James, you feel will be the Republican candidate or nominee. You got Mike Duggan, who will be on the
Yeah,
ballot, and then Dana or Jocelyn Benson. I almost said Dana Nessel
yeah.
as well. So you're a betting man, and you had to say who wins that election and why. Who do you think wins that election and why?
Man, put me on the spot.
Vegas odds. Well, you're not running now, so you can say it.
Well, it's just an opinion. There's more Democrats than there are Republicans. So that's going to say that Benson has an advantage. Who is Mike Duggan going to draw from? And we did a bunch of modeling because I really wanted to be the Republican candidate for governor.
Yeah.
I
wanted you to be also.
Well, thank you. The people of Michigan, whether you liked it or not, you would have seen that I would have delivered on what I said I was going to do. And I think that's what a politician should do. I wouldn't have said things and just ignored them when I got into office. But all of the modeling that we did out of Washington showed Mike Duggan in that 23 to 27% range for voters. He's going to do well in Wayne County. He's going to do reasonably well in Macomb County, which is a split county. And he's going to do reasonably well in Oakland County. Now, at whose expense?
Yeah.
Because where are the most independent voters?
Yeah.
Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb County.
Right.
His name recognition across the state may not be as high.
But out of the 3 of those,
Yeah,
I know you are a conservative,
yeah.
but
My
out of
candidate,
the 3,
the person I'm going to vote for probably will not win.
yeah.
I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Uh,
So I know you've talked about this a lot, and I think you might just have to describe yourself here, but what kind of candidate does the Michigan Republican Party actually need?
yeah, I think that I think the state of Michigan needs a candidate, not as uh, bombastic as Donald Trump, but who is got a personality and a big personality that's willing to step out and express what direction they want to go in versus hide behind the gray matter in Lansing and all the backroom deals. I think that we need a business mentality because the bigger government gets, the more impact it has in our state and our country, the more it's tied to taxpayer dollars and people's actions. Either you're working for the government or you may be working against the government. In both cases, you're impacted by that person. And as soon as you say working, that falls into a business person for me. Jocelyn Benson is not a business person. Mike Duggan, of all of the candidates, probably has more experience running businesses than any of the Republican candidates, and certainly more than Jocelyn Benson. And I know that some people are going to scream about that, but it's just it's my view of the world factually. So I don't think that the Republicans right now have put up the type of person that I'd really like to get behind. And the funny thing is for Michiganians to support that type of person, they're going to have to put the personality aside because that person's going to be brash. They're going to be rude. They're going to be opinionated. They don't have to be narcissistic. And there are people out there that I'm describing that actually care about Michigan and its people. I'll give you an example. Somebody like a Roger Penske would be a great governor, great businessman, great governor. How he approaches things. Now, he wouldn't be everybody's cup of tea. You could say that Dan Gilbert, prior to his stroke, might have been a really good governor. His understanding of how things work, his ability to move barriers is what I'm talking about. And to
Get
say
things done.
To say objectively, this is what I want to do. If I do it, this is what it'll look like. And then implement a strategy that when they accomplish it, it looks like what they said it was going to look
And
like.
get it done, right?
Yeah. And
He's done that well.
politicians aren't real good at that. And we've got a bunch of politicians running.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks very much for your time in listening to another episode of Beyond the Echo. I always look forward to your feedback. Be compelling, be constructively critical, and let's learn together. And most importantly, let's make Michigan better and let's make America better. God bless you. Have a great day. Thanks for tuning in to Beyond the Echo. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe so you never miss an update. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so drop us a comment and share the podcast with your friends. Stay connected and keep the conversation going by following us on social media. Until next time, keep exploring beyond the echo.